Are you an entrepreneur or ready to become a boss? Welcome to Hawaii Boss, the business podcast made in Hawaii, where you will hear from island movers and shakers on who they are and their impact on our state. And now, step into the office of your host for Hawaii Boss, David Pettyjohn.
Okay, and we are live. Aloha, Hawaii Boss crew. We are fortunate enough today to go into the Big Boss CEO office of Trini Kaopuiki Clark, President and CEO of Make-A-Wish Hawaii. Trini, aloha and welcome.
Aloha, thanks for having me.
No, we're excited to have you. Now, Trini Kaopuiki. Now, Kaopuiki, where's your family from? Is that, it sounds Hawaiian.
It is Hawaiian. I'm almost half Hawaiian. I may not look it, but yes, I grew up on Maui, actually. I was born and raised on Maui, but my father, Jimmy Kaopuiki, grew up here in Waimanalo on Oahu. Yeah. Okay,
so your roots go way back. I love driving through Waimanalo. It's, kind of gets that afternoon, cools off a little bit, and the beaches are so nice and beautiful over there, and nice to have. So tell us about Maui, though. I mean, growing up in Maui, that's a little bit different.
It is different. I grew up on a farm with my mother and stepfather and step siblings, but we had everything from pigs and rabbits and chickens, a horse for a time. I mean, all sorts of animals. But I grew up at that home until about my freshman year in high school. And then I kind of hopped around all over, actually, but I attended St. Anthony Junior Senior High School in Wailuku. And then after graduating, I went to LA for 1 year. I attended Loyola Marymount University and then transferred to the University of Hawaii. And I've been on Oahu ever since. I majored in journalism at UH.
Well, take us back a little bit in Maui. We got to, if you grew up on a farm, what were your chores? This is how we find out how people, came up, were they in charge of the chicken coop, or you got the horse?
Let me tell you, David, it was not glamorous. Yes, I have vivid memories of wearing boots and washing down the pig pens, going with my stepfather to pick up slop from people's houses. I had lots of chores, feeding the animals, and, we ate what we raised. So they were not pets to us. It was always food, rabbit and chickens and the pigs. So yeah, kind of a different.
So I'm guessing that the ninth grade, and then you hopped to, that big culture shock. How'd that go?
Well, I mean, it wasn't that huge of a culture. I did grow up country mostly until about ninth grade. And then I lived in Lahaina for a time, went to live with my dad. I lived with my grandparents for a time in Kahului. So the biggest difference, I guess, is that we didn't have the animals anymore to take care of. But, I visited my dad on that side of the island for summers and holidays. And of course, I saw my grandparents all the time. So it wasn't that huge of a shock, but I think just transitioning from, intermediate school to high school, that's a big difference.
Cool. And then Maui to LA, that's maybe more of a shock.
It is. That's a great, I really wanted to experience something different. I was actually very excited to move to California. And I loved being there, but the tuition was so expensive. And my mom was a single parent at the time. And, after 1 year, she's like, Trini, will you please consider moving back home and going to UH? And I said, yes. And that's kind of how that happened.
So you're saying that with a smile now. I happen to have some, the costs of things. We have children at our home too. And how do you deal with disappointment? This is sort of why we come to the boss's office right now with this pandemic. Everybody is struggling, and they may feel like they've missed their opportunity, or maybe they had all these plans and then they don't work out how they should have. Tell me, looking back now, that you came back. Are you glad you did?
I am glad. I have no regrets. I think the only time that I really thought was when I was thinking about leaving KHON2. I had been employed there for 19 years, which to me is success. There's a lot of turnover in the news business. So for me to have been with one news station for that long, I'm very proud of that. But I think when I was thinking about leaving the news business and looking at what else can I do, should I do, I wondered, that was probably the first time that I ever wondered, should I have majored in something else? What would my life have been if I stayed in LA and, majored in HR or something like that? I mean, who knows? Right. But that was the only time really that I wondered how my life would have been different had I taken a different path. But I really have no regrets. I'm so grateful with all of the opportunities that I've been able to, that have come my way. It's been an interesting path. I majored in theater actually at Loyola Marymount. Having never taken a theater class in my life, I have no idea what I was thinking at the time. But when
you go to LA, that's why you go to LA, right? You're from Maui to LA, you're an actor, right?
What's funny is I was in class with people who had been doing it their whole life. I mean, these were people who had done tons of commercials and acting and theater classes and dancing. And I had never done any of those things. So I don't know what I was thinking.
You didn't even hula?
I did hula, but that's not what they were doing up there. I mean, there's people who have been dancing ballet, modern dancing. And it was very evident to me that I was not at the same level as these people.
Right away.
So I definitely felt intimidated and wondered, scratched my head, what was I thinking? But when I transferred to UH, I did a lot of the the normal intro classes, and journalism was one of those classes, Journalism 150. And I loved it. It spoke to me right away. I loved editing stories. A lot of my other classes, to be completely transparent, you had to write these really long papers. And with journalism, it was the shorter, the better. How can you say everything that you want to say in this many words or in a minute 30?
So you were just getting ready for Twitter then. You were just getting ready. You were good.
I guess so. We were ahead of ourselves.
That's right.
But I just really loved it. And the more journalism classes I took, the more interested I became in that subject.
Sure. So it's difficult to find people who have that, who find it at school in their maybe freshman, junior year that, okay, this is what I want to do. So you spent 20 years, but what? Then there was a career change that led you all the way back to reevaluating whether or not I should have been an HR specialist in LA. So walk us through that, if you will. What, as someone out there maybe looking for a career change, because pandemic says, maybe you need to look at something else that's a little bit more sustainable and some different things. So looking at a career change, what did you have to go through to sort of evaluate that? That was very interesting. We're all curious.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I mean, again, I'd been with KHON for 19 years. I really loved it. News is exciting. It's fast paced. It's never boring. And I did have a lot of different positions. I was first hired to be a weather anchor. I was KHON's very first weather anchor ever. And then when there was an opening on the reporter side, I did that for a time. And then for a period, I did both. I was working on the morning news and I did weather during the morning news. And then after the news ended, I would go out and report on a story that aired later that evening.
And
sounds
then like a lot of hours maybe.
Long days, very long days. Yes. And during this time, keep in mind, I got married, I had children, it does take its toll. Correct. Yeah. And then more recently, KHON started their the first lifestyle show, Living 808. And so I was selected to be one of the co-hosts for that show. And that was awesome. I mean, my entire career at KHON, was really wonderful. But I think toward, the last few years, I just started to feel like I'm supposed to be doing something else, or I was curious about doing something meaningful in a different way. I mean, news is absolutely meaningful, but I just wondered as I got older, what else is out there? What else am I
Sure.
passionate about?
Sure. Because you grew up, I mean, as a person of, celebrity of sorts, that you have this certain, this is who you are. I'm a KHON person, but really, I'm not just that. There's something else beyond me, and that's something, if I have my energies and drove them in the right direction, maybe we could create something even more that reflects more of who I am.
Correct. And, through KHON, through my work at KHON,
Mm-hmm.
I did do a lot of work with nonprofits.
Mm-hmm.
KHON had a nonprofit arm. It started off as Lokahi, the
Okay.
Lokahi Giving Program, and then it became the Laulima Giving Project. And I kind of spearheaded that for 10 years. But I also, on the side, did a lot of other nonprofit work with Special Olympics, Hospice Hawaii, Alzheimer's Association.
Mm-hmm.
So I've always had a passion for giving back and doing volunteer work. So when I decided that I was kind of interested in doing something else, I was
Mm-hmm.
quietly looking for over a year.
Mm-hmm.
So it took that long. And I wouldn't have left just for any job
Sure.
because I wasn't unhappy.
Right.
But I started to quietly look at what else might be available. And
Mm-hmm.
that's when I was thinking, gosh, what am I, with my skill set,
Right.
what can I go? And in truth, a lot of the jobs that I was looking at, I felt, maybe underqualified or overqualified. It was kind of a weird place to be,
Right.
at my age,
Mm-hmm.
feeling this way. But when I heard about the Make-A-Wish Hawaii job, I was immediately excited.
Right.
And I felt that that is something that I could absolutely, um, you know, I was already passionate about to the
Right.
organization. I already had experience with Make-A-Wish Hawaii
Mm-hmm.
as a reporter, covering
Mm-hmm.
wish stories. And then, I had emceed many of their events.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought this is something that I believe in. I can absolutely lend my voice and face to.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it just seemed like it would be a good fit. So I threw my name into the hat, and here I am 2 years later. I am so, so grateful for what I get to do every day.
Mm-hmm.
It's really wonderful.
Now we're going to talk some more about that, but we can't just let you, cruise over 20 years of experience there without telling us, some of the things where, as you look back, some of the hardest things that you had to cover. We don't have to, as far as challenging, or that really sort of made you, rethink about. I don't know. You have to. There's so much to balance, and what do you want to share and things. So tell us something that really sort of challenged you as a reporter, or as a media person.
Yeah. I mean, the hours, just aside from the actual being a news person,
Mm-hmm.
the hours, I think a lot of people don't realize that when you're watching the news, it's live. And so if it's early in the morning, that means that they've been there since, I used to wake up at 2:30 in the morning, and I was at work by 3:30
Sure.
for over 10 years.
Right. Is that why those guys are sort of giggly in the morning? Because they're a little bit half asleep, and the story comes across, and the teleprompter messes up, and they're just like, forget it. You guys come in here and try and do this.
People used to tell me all the time, gosh, how can you be so cheerful in the morning? And I'm like, because we're all a little loopy at that hour, But I think people don't, may not realize that when they're just waking up and they're having their morning coffee and they're getting ready for work, we have been there for 3-4 hours,
Sure.
And then even at night, because the main newscasts are either in the morning or in the evening.
Mm-hmm.
So people may not realize that when they're having dinner or watching the news, we are missing that family time with our family, right? Mm-hmm. We're not having dinner with our family.
Right. Lots of sacrifice then, that you don't seem like,
oh,
you get all this, you get to be on TV and you get to meet all these great people, but I guess, you're personally, you got to make a lot of sacrifice of your time, it appears.
Absolutely. And the news, we don't celebrate holidays, right? You're working on Christmas, on Thanksgiving, on all of those major holidays. Mm-hmm. So that is difficult.
Mm-hmm.
But I think
go ahead.
Yeah. No, I was going to say for the actual job, I mean, covering court, covering a fire, covering a death, a car accident. I mean, there are, of course, those challenges where you're having to stick a microphone into people's faces
Hmm.
at a time when that's the last thing they want to do, but that's your
Hmm.
job. Luckily for me, I have a lot of those kinds of stories.
That wasn't your beat necessarily.
That
You sort
wasn't
of
my
moved
beat.
into, right. Uh-huh.
Yeah, there was a little bit of that,
Hmm.
but thankfully, I didn't have a lot. I had a lot of the fun stories,
Hmm.
businesses, startups, people who wanted to promote their products, their services. But it is a tough part of the job when you are
Hmm.
having to talk to someone who may have just lost a child.
Sure. Well, and that's hard. And tell us about a mentor, sort of everyone has, their person that they look to and like, I want to be a news person. That's who I look to. And, so, did someone guide you? And you can look to, you probably have several, but who was it like kind of like brought you up and said, you can really be something, kid?
I wish I had a good answer for this, but I
Hmm.
never, I didn't have a mentor in the traditional sense, because
Okay.
I know now, in doing a lot of these interviews, there are these programs, these mentorship programs, and I didn't
Right.
have anything like that.
Uh-huh.
There
How
are
about just a
certainly,
person that was there for you when you reached out? You could kind of count on them answering. Family, anybody, someone, you're sort of your rock in some of these challenging times.
I don't have just one person.
Oh,
And I
yeah.
think when I became the CEO at Make-A-Wish, and I know we're going to talk more about that
Sure,
later,
sure.
but
No, yeah,
but
yeah.
that first year was incredibly tough. And part of that was figuring out who I can talk to about what, you
Hmm.
know? So I'm really grateful that I actually have a great network. So it's not just one person that I would
Okay.
talk to. There's someone that I would talk to about maybe staffing questions that I have, that
Hmm.
I've come to respect, and leads their own organization. So I
Hmm.
would call this person if I had staffing
Hmm.
problems, or I would, if I had questions about HR, I would call this person. My stepsister Lori is someone that I've looked up to, and she's helped me, and she's always the one that's like, Trini, you can do this, you got
Uh-huh.
this. She helped look over my resume and my cover
Sure.
letter, and she's someone that I don't mind mentioning her name.
Uh-huh.
But I think that the others, I have different people that I go to for different things.
Well, that's a key. This is so it's not mentorship per se, it's a network that you've developed as a resource network. That's when I was young, I didn't know that network, go do networking. What does that mean? To pester people and make them communicate with you? No, you are an interest. A lot of people I'm finding now as I'm older that when people come to me and they're trying to figure things out, I'm like, oh yeah, do it this way because I made a mistake of this and this and this. And so I wish I knew, or I wish I was a little bit bolder when I was younger to come to people and say, hey, I need some help on this. I don't know what I'm doing, but sometimes we're a little bashful to go and ask people. Like they look up, hey, you do that pretty well. Can you help me understand that more?
And I think people
Hmm.
love being asked, hey, can you help me with this? Or not too long ago, I was asked to speak on this panel, and there were a lot of young people attending.
Hmm.
And I got so many LinkedIn requests afterwards. And
Sure.
I commend them for doing that, for reaching out, for staying connected,
Hmm.
because it is certainly something that I've noticed in my professional life is people come in and out of your life. They come in and out and come in and out again
Right.
in your life. I mean, just, through my time at KHON, it's amazing now how people I worked with there are now at the Department of Transportation, now work for
Hmm.
the governor's office, now work for the mayor, now work for the Department of Health. I mean, you know, you never would have thought 20 years ago that people you worked with then would come back into your life
Right.
in different ways. So yeah, that is one piece of advice I think for young people is, stay connected, don't
Right.
be shy, because I think a lot of times people are willing to help.
Hmm. Oh, I think so, and even provide resources. If they see someone that has some initiative, more likely than not, they're going to be assisting or trying to help that person get along because you can tell from a mile away. So someone must have kept seeing your skills, and obviously that shone through as you decided to make this big move into not a new field. It's a public domain, I would say. It's not for profit. Tell us about your organization now, the Make-A-Wish Hawaii, and the first year, barring the first year, now you're kind of hitting your stride. And so tell us what's happening over there.
Sure. So our mission at Make-A-Wish Hawaii is to grant life-changing wishes for children with critical illnesses. And every opportunity I get, I like to educate people, because sometimes people think that Make-A-Wish is a last wish, and that is not true. Sadly, while some of our kids do pass away, many, many more grow up to be happy, healthy adults. So thank you for letting me throw that in, because I know that there are some misconceptions about Make-A-Wish. The first year, yes, was challenging. It was, what is that expression? Drinking out of a fire hose. There was so much for me to learn and for me to do.
You didn't have a Rolodex all set up and who to call, like you said. Who's my network, my new network now?
No, I wish I did, but I did. I did find that network during my first year. I realized that one, I really believe in surrounding myself with smart people.
Okay.
I don't need to be the smartest person in the room. I don't claim to be the smartest person in the room. One of my first things was just making sure I had the right team in place. People who I knew and believed were paddling in the same direction as I was. Because that helps me succeed. It helps me feel comfortable. And, at the end of the day, it'll help all of us succeed, right?
Yeah, you have to find your people that are willing to jump onto a shared vision. If that isn't possible, then you got 3 different agendas or 4 different, however many different agendas, there's no unity, and therefore the bus goes a little slower.
Absolutely. So that first year, I worked crazy long hours. I thought I worked long hours in use, but this was, there was just so much that needed to be done, and I loved it. I do remember when I was getting ready to leave KHON thinking, gosh, I hope I'm not bored in my next job, because again, news was so fast and so fast paced and different things every day. And let me tell you, I have never been bored. There was just so much to learn and do. And just when I thought I was getting the hang of it, it was at the end of my first year. And when I say get the hang of it, really what I mean is I was getting home in time for dinner. I was,
You met your family again. They said, "Oh, welcome back home."
Yes. They're like, "Who are you again?" Yeah, because it was just so crazy that first year. And just when I thought, okay, I'm leaving work at a decent hour, I'm home for dinner, all of those things, COVID happened. So it just turned, everybody's world upside down. But again, having the right team in place made such a huge difference. And I'm really proud of everything that we've been able to accomplish in this last year, which was so crazy.
Well, kudos to you and your team. Yeah, during this pandemic and things, tell us, some of the projects you were able to get across the finish line, or how, even during the middle of this, some successes, some wins in the win category.
Yeah. So when COVID happened, of course, like everyone else, we started working from home. So there was that challenge, creating a crisis communication plan, because we are now having to communicate with our wish families that their wishes, the travel wishes, were going to need to be put on hold, right? Because Make-A-Wish America made the difficult decision to pause all wish travel. And there were families who had wishes, travel wishes planned for the very next day or the following week. So there was that, right? Communicating to our families, our volunteers, our donors, our staff, our board. I mean, there was that. And also Make-A-Wish is very event heavy. We a lot of our revenue is from events. So in last March, we started working from home. We had our biggest annual fundraiser, our annual gala, planned for May. So we immediately had to pivot and reimagine what this was going to look like. So we decided to turn our gala into a virtual event. We partnered with Hawaii News Now and had it be televised. And I think we might have been one of the first nonprofits to televise the virtual gala.
Sure.
So, that was kind of a big feat, and everything had to switch gears. It became very, instead of an in-person event, it became very comms heavy, where we needed wish stories, and we put on a 30-minute televised program.
Wow.
In a couple months.
Yeah.
So there was that, but also something I'm really proud of is, again, COVID happened in March, and by the end of April, so we had literally just a couple of weeks to put this together, we created a new event, and it was Stars at Home. It was a virtual talent show.
Wow.
So I don't know if you remember, David, but at this time, a lot of people were posting TikTok videos with their kids online. Everybody was looking for stuff to do.
Right.
And so our team created this virtual talent show where we were inviting the community to submit 1-minute videos of themselves doing a talent. And I use that word loosely. I mean, we had people doing 1-minute workout videos. We had people, we had a woman baking a key lime pie. We had singing and dancing, all sorts of talents. And we invited the community to then vote for their favorite acts with $5 donations. So it was very doable, right? It was at a threshold that was comfortable for most people. We partnered with television to get to promote this event. And we had 2 presenting sponsors come on board at the last minute, Domino's Hawaii and Jersey Mike's Subs Hawaii.
Oh, wow.
And we raised, just from this campaign, $60,000, more than $60,000.
That's incredible.
It is incredible. And I think, it was important for us to show the community that we never stopped granting wishes. To this day, we never stopped. We continue to grant wishes. We continue to need their support. So even though the travel wishes were put on hold, we are now going back to these families and saying, let's reimagine. This is a great opportunity to reimagine your wish. And, our team is still very, very busy creating wish magic every day.
What a fun, I bet your meetings are tons of fun, but I know there's limited resources. I mean, the fun, you have to be creative as the resources, less with more or more with less, as they say. And so even more true now, but so you must, since you didn't stop, you keep going, you must have something coming up pretty soon, or what's the next on the docket?
We do. I'm not sure when this podcast will air, but we do have this year's virtual talent show happened in April. Now our gala is happening tomorrow. That's also televised on Hawaii News Now. But we, last year we turned our Jingle Rock Run event, which is a huge community event with thousands of participants. Last December, this is a holiday event, but last December we turned that into Jingle Rock Ride. So we're now starting to work on that and wondering, can we have a run? Should we do a ride again? But this is just another example of how we've been, we're pivoting, right? That keyword, pivoting, reimagining events.
Being nimble.
Being nimble. Yeah, all of those keywords. But, like you said, support has changed, right? Corporate support is down, understandably, because a lot of businesses are struggling right now. So we have had to pivot, there's that word again, and really kind of lean more on individual giving and trying to find, our major donors and really leaning on our board of directors to step up and help us make those strategic introductions and help us fundraise during this, really difficult time.
If fundraising isn't, again, some corporations may not have that extra, cash flow, but, sometimes volunteerism and different things. Is there opportunities for corporations to jump on, and if you've got a project going, come down and help?
Yes, absolutely. We have lots of opportunities even for companies to provide in-kind support, depending on what the wish is. And our wish kids are so creative. We've been doing room makeovers,
Mm-hmm.
backyard sanctuaries,
Oh, yeah.
shopping spree wishes. So sometimes if a company cannot donate funds, they can donate, for a playground wish we did recently. We had a company donate some of the playground equipment.
Mm-hmm.
We had to um, provide concrete for the ground. So, we had a donor for the turf grass. We had a
Mm-hmm.
donor for the concrete.
Mm-hmm.
We had a donor to donate furniture. I mean, there's
Mm-hmm.
lots of different ways people can
Mm-hmm.
donate in kind. And then, of course, volunteer. We're always looking for volunteer wish granters.
Okay.
And this is such a special, special role in our organization because they're the ones that will meet the wish child and the families to help them determine what their one true wish is. So
Oh,
we're
wow.
always
So they're part of it and they're sort of adopted in, they adopt the family and everyone sort of goes through the process together.
Absolutely. So we have 144 kids right now waiting for their wishes to be granted.
Mm-hmm.
And I would think about 15 of those are waiting to be assigned a wish granter. So
Okay.
we do have wish granter trainings,
Okay.
every couple of months. And if people want to learn more about that, they can go to our website, hawaii.wish.org,
Okay.
and get more information.
Awesome. Hawaii.wish.org. That's easy enough. And go online and find a way that you can help. And that's what part of this is, that, all this giving that's happening and the challenges with the pandemic. I think we still, if we could find our service heart as we get through this, and we've got to, we've still got to pay the bills and we've got to get out there and work and do the things. But if we forget each other through this, after all of this, I think we've missed a big opportunity here. So you doing what you're doing and reminding all of us of that is very important, Trini. We're so glad that you came on. But before you go, before we let you go, we have a little bit of fun questions. We want to find out a little bit more. We relax a little bit. It's Pauhana, maybe getting off for the day. So tell us a little bit about, you go home. You talked about, they're just bringing you home dinner. What's your favorite family dinner meal that you guys eat?
So I am a terrible, terrible cook. So
Okay.
kudos to my husband, who is fabulous. He's the cook in this family.
Okay.
And he makes a really delicious pasta. I actually am not a pasta eater,
Uh-huh.
but I love his pasta. However he
Okay.
does it, it's delicious. So that's probably my favorite family meal.
Okay, so on Maui then, where'd you like to go hang out? The beach? Where was your hangout with your friends and things? All the folks from your middle school and high school used to go hang out.
Oh, McKenna for sure.
Uh-huh.
Big beach.
I
Big beach
saw
in McKenna.
no trouble down there, no trouble down there. But that's where all the kids went and had a lot of fun. Easier times then, and it feels like everybody's on their phones now. What are we supposed to do with? Do you allow your kids to have phones? What's the rule, moms?
Oh, that's terrible. So my daughter is older
Mm-hmm.
and she got a phone at a younger age. I don't exactly remember how old she was, but she needed a phone because she was part of a dance group and
Mm-hmm.
practices would change all the time.
You
So,
don't
and
have to
she's
make
very
excuses. You give your daughter a phone. It's okay. You don't
no,
have to. You're not a bad mom.
the reason I'm telling you this story is because she is responsible and she actually did need a phone. Did it need
Uh-huh.
to be an iPhone? No, we could have gotten her a flip phone. But the only reason I share this is because my son, who's younger, when he turned that age, he was like, well, Malia got it at this age, so of course I'm going to get it too. And that was my big fail. I do wish they were older, but they both have phones. I think my daughter's really good about not really spending too much time on social media. My son got his phone, I think about a year or two ago. So
Uh-huh. Well, it's the
yeah.
coin of the realm right now. Kids, do you want a bank account, an ATM card? No, you want your account on your phone and everything is all in one place. So there's some balance that we have to have there, but who knows what that is yet? I guess, we don't know.
It is tough. I'm not going to lie. It is
Yeah.
tough.
Even for
Yeah,
adults.
It is. It
Mhm.
is to turn off. But I am glad there was none of that when I was growing up. Social media and all the pressures too. With
Yeah,
having
we pick up a
phones.
phone, dial the number, talk to your friends.
I used to remember phone numbers. Now I don't
Mhm.
have to. I'm like, oh.
Well, tell us about if if you like to go out someplace, you go frequently, more than once or twice a year. This is your place. What do you call it? To eat.
Oh, to eat. I love sushi.
Hmm.
So my husband and I are big sushi eaters. I don't know that I have a one favorite
Certain place,
place
right?
though. Yeah, I
Hmm.
mean we try different sushi restaurants all the time, but that's my favorite food.
Well, hey, fresh fish in Hawaii. Who can beat that? Uh,
Yes.
so now, you're a celebrity of sorts. Do you swoon over any celebrity, somebody you've met, and then you kind of like went, "I'm a fangirl all the way." Who is that?
I was not one of those kids with posters up on the walls growing
Uh-huh.
up.
Leif Garrett and all that.
No, I don't. But I do have a girl crush on Charlize Theron. I think I love her in her movie. She's just,
Uh-huh.
strong,
She just got it
confident.
together, and yeah,
She
she owns
does.
she owns the role.
Yeah, and even with interviews, I like how she comes across.
So your 1 year of acting school. Maybe if you tried to, maybe you got some ideas out there. You want to try something new.
Nope, I am quite confident that I really do not have that skill set.
Okay. Well, sometimes we run into that. We find out what we can and can't do. As soon as we identify our superpower, then it helps. Our talents. Sometimes we realize though that maybe I'm not going to be a professional basketball player, or maybe I'm not going to be a professional a spokesperson, or but we have to find each our own thing. And I think you being here today and spending some time in the Hawaii Boss crew here and giving some of that feedback to all those folks listening, I think you may have hopefully inspired some folks maybe to follow your path or explore different career opportunities as this pandemic has moved through. But we are forever grateful for what you've provided for us as far as make a wish, and also we'd like to hear as things get going again, different programs that are coming up for you and your team. We'd love to have you back on and talk about it.
Thank you. I would love to.
All right. Well, for today, aloha.
Thank you, David.
Yeah. Take care.
Make sure to subscribe to Hawaii Boss and follow us on social media at Hawaii Boss Podcast at the links in the description. We'll see you soon in the boss's office.